So in this week's What the Fuck is Ilona Doing with Her Life for Her BFA, we're going to cover a couple of different topics. I actually have a real legitimate script this time instead of more than just writing down on my notebook, oh, here's what I think I want to talk about, which regardless I'm still totally going to do, but having an actual plan always helps. So, what did I do this week? So, here's what I've been doing. Whenever I have an idea, I write it down, and then I go and stick it on my wall. Cut to B-roll of my wall and the ridiculous shit that comes off of it. Over the last half of the semester, I've been taking all of my notes and all of my ideas and jotting them down on individual slips of paper and pinning them to my wall. Then I take them and organize them into clusters where I feel like they may work compared to other ideas, because everybody's brain works a little differently. In mine, of course, is as scattered as all get out. So whenever I have an idea from over there and over there and over there and oh, maybe something down there too, I take it and I put it all together in one big jumbled bubble of ridiculousness ideas, and it all makes sense in context afterwards. Maybe like 3 weeks after I've actually done the project, I can be like, oh, that, and that are what formed the ideas for this project, and I just didn't see it until afterwards. But this is interesting anyways. I will probably keep this document as a journal and a step-by-step of the way that I've gone through this process. So on the wall, I realized several things that I wanted to do with my project. One, I wanted to do a film, because I'd worked on a film over the summer. See last video for all the previous details about this, but I want to do that. I could have a future in film. I think it could be fun. Plus, it mixes my interest nicely between telling visual narratives and telling musical narratives, so I think it could work out well. Mostly, I want an excuse to be able to write the soundtrack to my own film, because I think that would be fun to do in the future. Maybe it'll get me a foot in the industry if I do my own soundtracking to my own films. Then I'll be able to show other people who will be like, hey, you should totally do the soundtrack for my film, and then I can continue going on from there. It's useful to have a foot in the door. At the very least, I'll have created something cool and then be able to latch on with that for future projects. So, I want to do a film, and I want to write the music to it. Now I just have to come up with a story for the actual film. That's the problem, and that's where I'm hitting the roadblock, is because I don't know what I want to write about, per se. We're getting into the part of the semester where I have to come up with production schedules, I need to have storyboards, I need to have a script, I need to have all of this shit figured out before I actually start shooting anything. Which, number one, isn't really my style, because I'm more of a seat-of-the-pants kind of creator. I'd rather wake up in the morning with an idea and be able to finish it by the end of the day. So I'm waiting for that stroke of inspiration. I'm waiting for that magical burst of light to hit my brain and be like, oh, this is what I want to make my work about. But it's been 3 months and that isn't happening. I've had a couple of sort of bubbles of maybe okay ideas, but nothing that really smacks me in the face and says, wow, you need to make this right now! So what do you do in order to get inspiration, I guess? How do we go from an idea to the execution? And there's a lot of different ways that we can do this. As an artist, I guess as a human being really, you get used to finding inspiration everywhere. Literally everywhere. I'm not even kidding you. There can be inspiration in the concrete on the sidewalk. There can be inspiration in the sky. There can be inspiration in a passing conversation that you have with a hobo when you tell him to fuck off because you're broke. Hey, that right there is an inspiration for an interaction between two characters in a film, or between two video game characters, or between two animation characters. I'm getting off topic. The point is that there's inspiration everywhere. I've been racking my brain and on full 100% pay attention mode for the past couple of months trying to find this inspiration, and it's just not happening. You ever get into writer's block where like your brain just stops and the words don't come and you don't know what to write, you don't know what to say? It's like that awkward moment in a conversation when the two of you, it's like this right now when I'm trying to come up with a really bad metaphor for it. My brain is saying, stop, you don't have to do your video right now. Go back and play on the internet. Now, you don't actually have to finish this video. It's not actually due tomorrow. It's not actually due next week. It's not actually due in 4 fucking weeks when you have your mid-year, so no fucking pressure, okay? It's just your entire academic career up until this point that you have to worry about, that your thesis basically sums up. It's just your whole life and your whole future that rests in your hands in this one project. So no pressure, right? And then when you can't get the inspiration for that, you can't really talk about it, you can't really do much of anything. I mean, I've been doing research for it. I've been talking about film and the importance of sound and storytelling through those mediums. Which is great, and I can totally write a paper about that, but it's incredibly generic, and I don't know, I'm kind of lost, and I've been looking around for the path to get back to artistic inspiration, the path that leads to genius and brilliance, and I suppose I'm hampered by an inherent sense of laziness that I have, of course. Who doesn't like to procrastinate? I talk too much. Yeah, I talk too much. Anyways, channeling my inner Strader. Yeah, so I've been distracting myself instead with, not that I haven't been busy, I have been doing research, I've been reading, I've been watching movies and short films and television shows, and I've been talking with my friends, and I've been trying to become inspired, and I've been visiting places, and I've been doing all this sorts of stuff to try to get myself inspired, but sometimes it's just not happening for some reason, and I don't know, like, everything that I do either becomes stress relief or attempting to get myself inspired, and they coalesce so much. For example, I've taken up knitting as a form of stress relief, which is wonderful because it's a new skill that I've never learned before. Working with my hands is so much fun because when you produce videos, which are not really tangible, I can reach out and touch you things. It's nice to just be able to build your own things every once in a while. So I've been distracting myself with knitting, which actually led to another idea in my video class. We're supposed to come up with documentaries. My idea was, I took knitting and I realized how badass knitting was, because really, what's more anarchistic than saying, fuck the system, I'm gonna make my own clothes? No, fuck it, I'm gonna make my own stuff. I can't be tamed, and I'm gonna be a badass and make my own clothes. I suggested that we make a mockumentary about punk knitters. And you take the crossover from the punks and the crossover from the grandmas who knit, and you kind of mesh them together, and you mess with that social commentary about both groups and how they've divided each other, but they have one thing in common, and that's where the crossover between that came from. So inspiration on that level was totally fine, but when it comes to my BFA, it's just nothing, gone, dead, zilch. Anyways, what was I babbling about? Yeah, the crossover between different parts of your life, because you never know where an idea comes from, so you're just absorbing things all the time. For example, my friends have talked me, and my friends, okay, in particular Angel, talked me back into going to OhioCon, and even though I wasn't really into anime anymore, I liked the sense of family and the culture that surrounds people who are passionate about certain subjects, like many of our professors are about their particular subject. Everybody has a passion for something. I realized that I have a passion for a lot of different things, music included, art included, telling stories included, but I find people to be fascinating, and I find people and their stories, and in particular their interests and their motivations, to be very fascinating, which is why, of course, I like psychology, but on a more simpler base level, it's interesting to me. So I had a friend who Angel talked me back into going to conventions, so I've distracted myself up until Halloween, which was last week. I distracted myself with preparing my Halloween costume and with setting up my cosplay, because basically that's what it boils down to, is that Halloween is basically just practice for cosplays and for conventions. I was gonna do Korra. Korra didn't work out. Dave did. Because I should be focusing on my BFA, but instead I'm making costumes and I'm making props. Anywho, yeah, I've been distracting myself too much, and sometimes it feels like distractions can be good for inspiration, but sometimes you really just have to knuckle down and buckle down and get to it and just start writing and just start creating, and then maybe inspiration will come afterwards. Maybe you'll be able to explain it later. Doesn't matter, just do it right now, okay? Even if you're not all that inspired, sometimes shit just has to get done and stuff just has to go out the window because it needs to be done. And I guess this is growing up, unfortunately, in an artist kind of way, because I just have to knuckle down and nut up and man up and do it. So I don't like it, and I don't have very many ideas, but apparently, while talking this out between me and the camera sitting in front of me and my lovely reflection off to the side, hello me, apparently I'm just gonna have to start writing my script and coming up with storyboards and production times and stuff like that, because I can't really afford to fuck around anymore. So even though I don't know what I'm doing, I'm just gonna blaze forth into the unknown and hope that it all works out for the best. After all, isn't that what art's about? Stay tuned for the next edition of What the Fuck is Ilona Doing in Her Life?